Here's our resume. Just pass it out for them. Or maybe have it online so anybody whoever is interested can post back their resume to you. You just send a PDF. Arima has a resume database. All the applications for bigger rail companies you gotta do online. It's required. No matter how good you are and so on, if you don't fill that up, they ain't gonna interview you. Smaller companies, consultants are maybe a little bit different. And then, of course, any job fairs, railing for railroad nights. Railroad night, I'll talk about that. That's our special event. But any job fairs, if you start creating some credibility for UWM, for railroad engineers or operations experts, the railroads are going to start coming here. They're going to start recruiting on your job fairs. But you can also, like the Meet the Next Generation event at this point is going to be the prime time for you guys to go and make everybody aware of what UWM is doing. Okay, so where do you fit when it comes to the class ones? You would be in this professional category, about less than 10% of the employees. Typically pretty well paid. If you take a look at this, where's our professional? That's the average annual wage is 73,000 baht. There's obviously quite a bit of range. So just a little bit about how do these big organizations, how are they organized? So I'll just take the engineering department as an example. So you have your CEO, your senior VPs, then you have your VP of engineering. So now if you drill down, under VP of engineering you have few AVPs. So let's say you're a civil engineer. So you might be an AVP of maintenance or maintenance structures. But under each AVP, you have a bunch of chief engineers. And they tend to be organized in regions. North, south, west, east, 3 or 4 regions. Fairly big regions. And now under each chief engineer, you have division engineers. And under division engineer, you have assistant division engineers. And then you have so-called roadmasters. So if you go and you take a management job with class 1, this is most likely where you're going to end up, especially those who have civil background. Unless you can find maybe a structures design group job, you might be able to find that, especially graduate students and so on. But typically this is where they place you at first. When you see the layers, and the first few layers, it's fairly quick. If you prove yourself, it's fairly quick to climb up. How do they, railroads are used to training people in who know nothing about rail. So they have very extensive training programs. Typically 1 to 2 months basic training to start with. All the corporate orientation, some technical training, safety. Very dangerous industry. Well, very dangerous if you don't do it, in a safe manner. Then they move into so-called kind of mixed training. It has cross-departmental training, your own departmental training, and then training course. It's mixed in the field and back to the classroom, and in the field and back to the classroom. And these can range anything from 4 to 16 months, depending on which company, what's your major or area, and how much background you have. And only after that they put you to your first actual management position, when you're really responsible for something. So it may be anything from 6 months to probably 18 months when you get your real first job with responsibilities. Okay, so that's kind of the, in a nutshell, with the rapid fire about some of the things when you think about the jobs in the industry. So now talking about the railroad, the Arima Student Job. So our club is Railroad Engineering Activities Club, REACT. We got started in 2005, and I was even able to find our first little poster we put together for the first meeting, trying to get people to come. It takes a while to get going. We started with about 15 students in 2004, right? 2005. Yeah, maybe 16, 17. And today we are between 70 and 80 students. Now, it doesn't really mean that those students all come to we don't get 70 or 80 students to our monthly meetings. If we get 30 or 40, that's pretty darn good. So you always get some active students, you always get some students who kind of come to 1 or twice and then they disappear. But they may still be members. Don't discourage anybody, just take it. But face the reality that not everybody's going to be showing up all the time, and don't take it personally. It's just busy. Some of the keys to success, and I actually stole this from Riley Edwards from UIUC. we gave a little presentation once, and this was a slide he put together. I think you already have one of the keys to success, the several foundational students, and that tends to be kind of the officer group. It looks like you seem to have a pretty good officer group in place already. You definitely need to get like a solid 5 people who kind of lead the effort and lead the project. There definitely is a lot of support from the other student chapters and headquarters have really jumped up big time, the Arima headquarters. They really like student chapters, they went backwards to help them out. The other student chapters, there's some coordination calls, that's still a little bit work in progress, but there is definitely something. This is a special club, so consider teaming up with some other entities, ASC, ACI, ITE, to present or do joint events with them so that you can kind of get this rail a little bit more aware and pick some students from these more generalized clubs. Key is connections to the industry. This is industry oriented. There's not much academia when it comes to RED. It's all industry. So you want to build good connections to the industry. That leads to the recruitment of students, and once you start getting your own alum to the industry, it really helps. Visits to facilities really shows that you're interested, gets you to see the real world. And the last thing, it's all about marketing. Trust me, you're going to spend 50% of your time marketing and trying to keep people either involved or get the new people inside the door. You would think that once you get it going and people start coming, it would roll on its own. It never will. Trust me. It will always continue doing marketing. That's one of the big lessons learned for me. So Dave had some of these little brochures. We've done a lot of different kinds of brochures. This kind of old slide. We actually have this is for the whole rail transportation program, but we have a pretty extensive portfolio of reports and everything. Not only the railroad club, but everything that we do at Tech. So I mean, when you go this around, some folks want to see. But you gotta get your word out. So here's this something, brochures, annual reports, newsletters, presentations, one-on-one discussions, and events. And to me, the rule of the events is, don't look at the number of events, look at how well you can do it. Our key event has been so-called railroad run. It really is to increase the visibility. We started maybe with 50 people first time 6-7 years ago, many students and industry people. We did it at the same day than the job fair. So that way all the companies were already there. Last year we had about 170 people signed up. Half of them students, the other half we had about 15 industry companies. We bring faculty, we bring administration, our president has been there. We also now bring local community and politicians. We invite staffers for our state senators and so on. And it's turned into one heck of a nice event. This year our keynote speaker is Lisa Staper, who is the CEO of the Transportation Technology Center down in Puebla. So think about, creating one like a key event for you over the year. You already talked about the Arima's annual conference. You can't beat it. Anything you do here, you can't beat the Arima. It doesn't cost anything. They give free registration for you. They even support the student chapters to come down. So if you get a chance, go there, for sure. One thing I want to really highlight is the importance of officers. You really are the engine of the club. It lives or dies with the officers. It's an unfortunate thing how it is, but that's how it is. And you're probably going to carry 90% of the burden of running the club. So, but one thing you can try to do to help yourself is to create activity committees. When you do something special, that you pick an officer and you try to get a couple of volunteers from the ranks to help that crew. Because that way they get into the leadership cycle and it helps your work also as well, instead of doing everything with the officers. Definitely figure out what your roles and tasks are. Because you really want this to work smoothly. And there's always confusion when it comes, and you're going to rotate it for every year to new officers. If you don't have a good transition, you just lost half a year until it really gets going again. And we are even now struggling with that. Think about performance metrics. Create something for you so that you can actually track how well are we doing with this. The number of people coming to the room is one metric, but that's kind of simple. And think about, did we get our advertising out in time? What else can we be tracking? Think about some rewards for the officer. Maybe you can create a nice little shirt that every officer gets after they're done with their term. And finally, I really recommend you develop some kind of strategic plan at the beginning of the year. What do we really want to accomplish this year? I got criticism from my students when I pushed them to do this. They were saying that, well, we are just a club. You want us to run like a Fortune 500 company. I'm like, what's wrong with running like a Fortune 500 company? Wouldn't you want to run like that? And it's interesting, that president, he was 2 years old president, great kid, very enthusiastic, but he got really upset about this. He works for BNSF now. He just came back to my office about a month ago. And the first thing he said was like, you're right, you should run it like Fortune 500. So that was really interesting because he's been now in the world and he realized how much you really need to do this in coordinated fashion. If you do it right, you can really spur, this student chapter can really spur a lot of stuff in the university with the help of some of the, your faculty and so on. You can, sometimes it's the student chapter that comes first, then maybe railroad classes, you already have continuing education, then potentially undergraduate research assistants, graduate research, and so on, and it can become this really good loop, and the student chapter is one piece of that loop. Not the only one, but overall. Okay, so then that's kind of my few minutes about what to do maybe with the students after, and we can, if you guys have comments or thoughts, I'm more than happy to say. But then just a couple of slides maybe for the more for the faculty. If somebody here is interested in really building a specific program. To me, there's two ways of building a program. There's the baby steps or there's the big bang, and both have been done. I like the baby steps, that's what we've done. We've spent about 10 years to build our program. It's kind of weird because I was a PhD student when I started building the program. Typically in academia, programs are built by professors, not by PhD students. But here are some potential baby steps how you can do it. Start with the existing classes instead of trying to pop a new class right away. Then maybe move into a course or try to create a senior design. You're already doing the student chapter aspect. Definitely getting on in professional organization. ARIMA Education and Training Committee loves to have students as members of the committee. So, if you want to be involved in that committee, just contact the committee chair and say, hey, I want to be involved. If they're meeting in Jacksonville, you may even ask them, is there any support that we could maybe gain so I can come to the meeting. One big thing when it comes to railroad industry is that they get a lot of requests for money especially, and from academia too. And quite often they ask you, they're businessmen, they ask you, well, what's the justification for this request? Why is this university asking us to support them with $100,000? What are we getting out of it? When you go and you ask for the support, two things. Have something you can show that you've already done, so that you build some credibility. And the second thing is to have some kind of plan of what you're going to do with it. We tend to sometimes in academia, and this is once again, you're not going to go for 100,000, but if somebody builds a program here, you might. And railroads are pretty picky, they're pretty tight. The big bang is what Penn State Lautala is doing. They're starting a major from nowhere or from nothing, so I'm very curious to see how that works out. It hasn't really finished yet. But no matter how you do it, developing some kind of solid plan is clear. Or at least develop some kind of plan. Think about it more as a business than as some kind of a, academic exercise. Because that's what honestly we are, and that's what, I hate to say it, but what university, what we are moving into our businesses. And that's how we need to think about it. So here's a kind of a very simple plan how we started. I was tasked to put together some kind of strategic plan, and I summarized it in one slide. I said that we have 3 phases. I did this in early 2006. We're going to start this with me being a PhD candidate, working on it. A little bit of funding from university, paying my poor maths stipend. We had some specific objectives we wanted to try to address. Once I got my degree, we went to the so-called development and implementation. I thought I was going to be a rail research engineer. I ended up being a research assistant professor. Administrative reasons turned out to be much better. We made a deal with university and industry. I said that I went to industry and we had shown enough to them. I said, if you pay half of my salary, I'll get the other half from the university, and I'll make a commitment for 3 years to stay here and build this program. And then we'll look again. When we tried that in 2006, the industry wouldn't go with it. But by the end of 2007, they did, because they already saw enough what we had been able to do. They're like, hey, this is really cool. Yeah, we'll support it. And once again, we had some plans for that. And then the third phase was going to systems and diversification, getting actually rail faculty, still funding kind of both ways and certain things. And I actually forgot this whole slide for a couple of years, and then I saw it back and I was like, huh, we've kind of done it this way. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing when I did all of it. But the point is that if you have some kind of plan, you have something that you can go back to, and you have something to try to track to, and so on. And here's the last thing about thinking like a business. You already saw that one little graph where I showed our membership growth and how many students are involved in the classes. This is what industry does. They follow numbers. They want to check how are you doing. You do it with numbers. It's tough to do in academia. So we try to create metrics. We track as much as we can how many interns we get to the industry, how many full-time employees go to the industry. And we show these to these companies when we go to talk to them and ask them for support. We also track ourselves against the rest of the nation. How many RE scholarships do we get? You know, there's about 40 of them that we compete for. How many did we get to Michigan Tech? Now, our percentage has gone down,